The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk and live TV. Even the intro was stuttering this morning.
This is what happens when you have computers controlling everything under the sun. So.
I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And here we are again in the city of Fall River. The city where, you know, the truth is never actually the truth. You know, I have to do this. We have to talk about, you know, this relentless campaign against the taxpayers in the city of Fall River, and the out and out lies and half truths and the attempts to mislead the public. Our illustrious mayor, Sam, I never saw a tax I didn't like, Sutter. Is now attempting to lobby for an override of Proposition 2.5 under the guise of, would you support a Proposition 2.5 override to maintain public safety, which is the mantra they all use when they want to override 2.5. So with that, let me set the record straight. You can't override 2.5 specifically for public safety. It's not legal. That money is going to the general fund, and then they're going to say they're going to use it for public safety. But they may only use it for public safety for a year, and then what happens when we begin to lose money again? It'll free up money that they'll make jobs with and create and give everybody and all their friends a pay raise, and then the following year that money will evaporate and they'll begin to reduce manpower. And I'm not talking in theory, I'm talking in practice. I saw the fire department go from a fully funded 300-man department to the skeleton that it is today. And during that time, we have to remember that every single position on the Fall River Fire Department, on the Fall River Police Department, were fully funded by your tax dollars. And those tax dollars got diverted, and somewhere along the line, that money never comes back, and we're short of firefighters again. And you know, in FY 2014, the city of Fall River took 14 firefighters' salaries that were funded by our city money that should have been carved in stone and stayed on that department, and they eliminated those positions completely. Now, where's that money? Who knows? That might be Lou Pacheco's vacation stipend or his vacation pay. It might be Ron Spike, whatever, Galyabisky, Lewiski, or whatever.
Ron Bentleweski.
Oh, well, whatever. Thank you, CJ. I'm not good with those names that end in like XYZ and things like that. But the fact is that, this city does nothing more than spend, spend, spend. The mayor has not eliminated one single real fat job. He hasn't taken a scalpel to departments. He hasn't eliminated the extra supervisors, the extra administrators, the layer upon layer upon layer of administration and patronage that this city has seen over the last 10 or 20 years. Look at the school department. It's more than a third of the city budget. I mean, it's obscene. And the fact is, again, this guy is now going to impose a fee in addition to the bags, the bonding. So now we're going to pay 4 times to pick up our trash. We're going to pay the DPW, who we used to pay to pick up our trash, or DCM, you want to be perfectly accurate, with all the new acronyms that we have now. We changed the name, but the game never changes. We changed the names. We used to pay the DCM or the DPW in the old days when they actually used to pick up our trash for our tax and took it out of our tax money. Then we bonded for the barrels, so we paid twice. Then they got the bags, so now we're paying 3 times. And now, Sam, I never saw a tax I didn't like, Sutter, is going to impose a fee of $10 per month on every residential unit. So that means if you got a 3-family, you're going to pay $360 a year and have to buy the bags and pay for the barrels and pay for the guys who were picking them up. You know something? Enough is enough. Enough is enough. There's no shared sacrifice here. The trash bag ordinance does not apply to businesses. The fee, the new fee, is only on residential units. The fact is, and 2 years ago, they lowered the tax factor on businesses. Are we sharing any sacrifice? And ironically enough, the rumor is he's going to have the Board of Health impose these fees. And members of that Board of Health either live out of town or they're businessmen who are exempt from the fees they impose. And I will say it here. As soon as they attempt to implement those fees, I will be filing a taxpayer suit against this city, because enough is enough. I can't take this anymore. I can't take listening to this guy try to pretend that he's trying to fix the city when all he wants to do is no shared burden. Name me a tax that businesses have had imposed on them. What's projected to help business share in our burden? Are you gonna bring the tax factor back and move it up again to where it used to be? Even though we're lower than most communities, we won't say that. And then his BS statistics. 16 or 15 out of 16 people said they support an override for 2.5. It's because they don't know. They don't know that's BS. You're not going to use it for fire and police. You're going to use it for fire and police for 1 year, and then it's going to disappear, and we're going to begin to lose them again until we can figure out another tax. Just like we always do. Just like we did before. Just like we've done again. We never, ever fix or reorganize this city, and frankly, it's time for a revolt.
You know, Chip, it was interesting because the Niagara Neighborhood Association, and he poignantly made it very clear. CJ, this is not written in stone. This is how I'm leaning. This is how I'm leaning. And actually, I'm not trying to correct you, Chip, but it was 17 out of 18 people.
I'm sorry.
That was at the Father Kelly Association meeting. We know this. So 17 out of 18 political butt kissers voted to override 2.5 because they were ignorant and were not informed. The mayor couldn't even answer some of the questions that he had to put Lupa Chico on the phone, and he had him on speakerphone for this meeting. And that's okay. You should be surrounded with good people who know. But a $10 a month fee per unit, okay? It's a collection fee. So, for the idiots, and I hate using that word so loosely lately, who decided to privatize their trash like I did, but I'm not an idiot because I did it right, and then said, oh no, I'm going to recycle because I'm going to save $25 on another bin that I would need for not recycling in my 3-family or 6-family home, and I'm going to have the city take the recycling. So you saved yourself $25, which I'm all for, but you cost the city $42. Because remember, Fall River pays to get rid of its recycling. We're not making money on that. That's not free. I don't know why people think it's free. It's because people said, and I have one person who actually says this, it makes me feel good to know that I'm recycling. I can see that it's being recycled. No, you're not seeing that it's being recycled because reports are, and again, these are reports, they haven't been validated yet, that some of the recycling is going into a standard trash truck with the trash. So, I mean, we have to question, what's really happening. But a $10 a month fee on a 3-family is $360 a year. $104 a year if you use one bag a week in each apartment. Okay, that's $312. Right there is 672 bucks. For 2 bins, which includes your recycling, costs you on average $50 a month. That means that's $600 a year. That's a $72 savings. So if you're all about saving money, there's your savings. I explained to the mayor very clearly that New Bedford is benefiting from their privatization program because they're generating $3 million a year in savings. And if you want to equate savings to money, that's what it is. It's $3 million. That $3 million can go to the fire department. That $3 million can go to the police department. You can increase your staffing. Okay? So, what's so problematic? Here's the problem. Political butt kissers would lose their jobs. And we can't have that. We can't have that, Chip. You know that.
Oh, well, I think it's very important, too, to bring up something. And I appreciate you reminding me it was, 17 out of 18 or whatever, because it's really irrelevant because the statistic and the data, as we said, figures don't lie, but liars can figure. Well, data can be interpreted in many ways, and we've seen how data is manipulated to support it. It all depends on where you get that data from. So if you're getting it from people who are at a neighborhood meeting who are trying to kiss up to the mayor, well, of course they're going to tell you, but try to get it. But the reality is, I want to just say here on the show, at the last meeting, you did specifically ask the mayor if they could earmark that money for public safety. And he did defer that question to the chief of staff, Lou, I will never live in Fall River Pacheco. I'm giving them all little nicknames now in the middle, so, I would never live in Fall River Pacheco. He answered that question, so would you share with our audience what happened during that dialogue?
Yes, actually, it wasn't I who asked the question. It was a member of the audience. No, that's okay. And he says, well, if you're going to take this 2.5 override money, can you guarantee that it is going to be earmarked for police and fire? And the mayor wasn't sure how to answer it. Lou Pacheco did answer it. He asked Lou, and Lou said, no, we can't do that. That's a public safety tax. And a public safety tax is illegal. So right there, we now know that even with the 2.5 override, it's not going to police and fire. It's going to where? It's going to the black hole known as the Fall River City General Fund. And and then when you wonder about that, you have to say, well, if it's going to the general fund, how do we know where it's going? Well, I'll tell you how we know where it's going, and it's not very easy how to know where it's going, but this is where it's going.
Who knows what evil lurks in the hearts of men?
But this is where it's going, people. Nobody knows.
The shadow knows.
Oh, the shadow knows. We got to get him in here because this is really sad. I mean.
Yeah, well, we have had, historically problems with accounting for money, losing money, and the general fund is that giant vacuum. But, we've got to get back to this issue and it's really bothering me, of this campaign of disinformation and misinformation that this administration is continuing to do. He's lobbying, basically, for an override of 2.5. He's lobbying for an override in 2.5 before we even impose another fee on the taxpayers for collection of trash. So, as I said, there's this relentless attack on the taxpayers, and it's like he doesn't. I mean, one of his other nicknames, he's beginning to get an entire litany of nicknames, Captain Clueless. Well, guess what? It appears he is clueless, because the fact is that, I don't know what city these people live in. I don't know how they can just say, hey, we're going to share the burden. He says this isn't Newton, but I think he does think it's Newton, because I don't know who he thinks owns these homes in Fall River, only 37% of the people own property in this city. Many of them are older people on fixed incomes. Fortunately, most of the time their houses are paid for, but they're not living on a major income. They can't afford this. I mean, we continually hear his statistics that he cherry picks. 17 out of 18 people in the neighborhood association are in favor of a 2.5 override. Yeah, really? We'll put it on a ballot, see where that goes. They're going to blow you up so big, and there's going to be a revolt. But the fact is, the statistics he ignores is we have the second lowest household and per capita income in the state, only behind Lawrence, which is the only city which is more pathetic than Fall River. They have less businesses, they have more people below the poverty level, and they have even a lower per capita and household income, which is why Lawrence is a disaster, just like Fall River. But what are we doing? What are we doing to try to keep money in the pockets, to keep businesses going? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. All he knows how to do is figure out where to grab money. And it's always out of the pockets of, number one, people who can't afford it. Why don't you realize the people you're dealing with? I invite you, Sam, to come to a retirees meeting the second Thursday in June. I want you to stand up in front of those people who are making peanuts, who are now paying, some of them more than 25 and some more than 25% of their income on prescription drugs because of the change the city made so they could put that money in their pocket. And they've blown it and pissed it in a hole again, like they do with all the money. This isn't a shared sacrifice. This is like a smart bomb, and it's aimed at the poor people and the people of the average person in Fall River. And it's wrong. And you can sip your martinis out of town, like most of the time, and you can do what you want to do, but it seems that when you rub elbows with the people who have a lot of money, their attitude is, let them eat cake. They don't care. They don't care. They don't give one iota about the problems of the people in Fall River. And apparently, the council's not paying attention either. That's why, look, the city doesn't have to privatize trash pickup. We can do it collectively. If they pass these fees, everybody should go on private pickup, and then they'll have to eliminate it anyway because there'll be not enough money to generate any income, and they're going to have to disband it. The fact is, look, I'm sick and tired of the answer is always more taxes. And that BS about, you got to expect to spend more money. To again quote the mayor of New Bedford, who apparently knows a lot more about reality than Captain Clueless. People don't mind paying taxes if they know that their tax money is being invested wisely. I know one thing. Years ago, when I paid my tax bill, my fire department was being paid with that tax money. My police department was being funded. Now, they're being funded by the feds. We're begging from the state. And where did my tax money go over the years? It was diverted. It's going to chiefs of staff, to special assistants, to city administrators, to all these other jobs, and coaches and assistant coaches in the school department. And all these jobs that became a reality and created this giant inverted pyramid and made this city overmanaged and underserviced. And again, after all we're talking about, the cherry on top of the sundae, the caveat to all this, how are we going to deal with it too? We're also going to cut the budget, personnel. Who goes when you cut personnel? The people who provide the services. More firefighters, more police officers. You won't see any deputy chiefs go You won't see any officers. You won't see any supervisors go. When they make those across-the-board cuts in the budget, I guarantee you the supervisors will remain, and they'll be supervising their desk because there's nobody left to supervise, and that's appalling. What's happening to this city, we're killing it. We're about one breath away from flatlining, and this guy is going to flatline the city.
You know, historically, throughout the state, the country, communities that have reached this point have actually, in a huge number of cases, become ghost towns. I don't think Fall River could ever become a ghost town, but I do believe that we are going to have such a financial debacle, and that's being polite, that we are going to suffer tremendously. You know, some of the focus that was at the Niagara meeting was the fact that he's looking at a 1.5% cut in budgets, all the budgets. And he says all departments, none of them are exempt. That's police, that's fire, that's school, that's, you know, DCM, that's city hall employees. Every department is going to be subjected to this. And again, he's leaning towards it. This isn't written in stone. And, you know, he made it very clear about that. But, you know, some of my resources that I have within City Hall and elsewhere said that they were actually looking at a higher cut, and that higher cut is still on the table. Now, when you look at a department like the fire department, a 1.5% cut, I mean, what's that, 2 firefighters? I mean, you know, 100 firefighters, 1.5 would be 1.5 firefighters. So you got to round up to 2. We have 153, so you're looking probably at 3 firefighters are going to go. So now that brings us down to 150. Because remember, the fire department budget is 96% personnel. You know, it's the same thing in the police department. You're looking at, you know, a couple of police officers losing their jobs, and it's sad that that's what we come down to. But remember, politically, that's what you attack. And Chip, you know this. You negotiated for 20 years, so you know this.
24
years, okay? So you attack public safety. You attack fire, you attack police. You are going to lose these people. And then the citizens get in an uproar. Why? Because they know what buttons to push. They know what moves men. Okay? Chip has said it a million times on this show. We say it all the time. There are buttons that cause people to act. Okay? And that button is always pushed. It's a political rule. And it's political expediency. So you can't play that game.
No, because it's, you know, I mean, this is, it's not only, it's not only not in the best interest of the community, it's actually, in my opinion, immoral. I mean, to remove necessary services while you maintain these. I just did a quick on my computer. If the chief of staff takes a 1.5% pay cut, he'll lose $1,050. So that means he'll go plummeting down to $69,000, you know, $68,950. And so when the average person is, you know, the average individual in Fall River is making 20, so that he'll still have virtually 3.5 times more than a person in Fall River, and he's making he's making double what a household income is in Fall River after the pay cut. But see, the problem we have here, CJ, is that it's always, and that's what gets me, because the people believe the Kool-Aid, and then they get incited. They're treating the city like the city council. It's like, if you don't do this, you know, we're going to have these problems. Well, it's not the fact that we're going to have these problems because we won't accept taxes. We're having the problems because they won't stop spending. They won't stop making jobs, and they won't stop eliminating people who are sitting on their fat duffs playing with a computer when they're being paid to be on fire apparatus. They're gonna pay 2 new supervisors in DPW when the DPW manning is at its lowest in history. So, you know, these are the kind of things that to me, are immoral. I mean, there's not even an attempt. There's an attempt to BS the public. You know, we hear all the things, and but let's look at who's getting laid off. As I said, DPW, low manpower. 2 new supervisors only a couple of years ago added to the complement. Fire department, 14 firefighters gone in 2014, but 2 captains and a lieutenant's position created. So we have this pattern: more supervisors, less people to deliver services. Look at our school department. We've got coaches, life coach, I don't know, the coaches, assistant principals. I mean, we got more administrative tiers now. We've got attendance takers, checker of the attendance taker, the checker of the attendance taker, and yet the teachers are teaching with 35 kids in a classroom, with 30 kids in a classroom. This is wrong. It's wrong. And the people have got to wake up. You've got to wake up and say, look, if you won't spend our money, our tax money, our hard-earned tax money, the way we want it, you're going to disappear. We're going to take you out. We started with Will Flanagan, and let's finish the job. Let's make everybody who sits in an elected office in the city of Fall River know, if you don't work in the best interest of the taxpayer, if you don't, to quote the mayor of New Bedford, spend our tax dollars wisely, you've got a very short career in politics.
The problem is, Chip, okay, that you have city councils, and I'm not going to name them here, okay, who have said, I'm going to take this vote and I'm going to vote for it, like the pay-as-you-throw enforcement ordinance, like other things. And if you don't like it, then you can vote me out of office. They don't care anymore because they know that they have the votes locked, okay? You could not, in years, get rid of anyone like Pat Casey for the longest time, okay? You might be able to this time around, but for the longest time, you couldn't. And that's the thing we need to look at. I'm gonna do what I want when I want, and that's it. And you brought up the school department. The mayor has already said that he has legal opinions from 2 advisors or a couple of advisors who are lawyers that says he doesn't have to meet net school spending. He wants to, he's dedicated to it, but if he doesn't, he can carry that shortfall to the next year. And he can continue to carry it on to future years if I interpreted, and I don't want to say interpreted, but if I heard his statements correctly. You can't do that. That's a Kathy Ann Viveris misinformation statement, that you can take this year's shortfall and put it into 2017 and then take 2017 and put it into 2018. Which means you just kick it down the road and keep racking up the mortgage. Eventually the state's going to come down and say, that's it, we're taking your education money. Now that they're taking your education money, how are they going to pay for all those friends who have jobs? Let's look at this. How can you hire people for jobs that don't even have certifications? Okay, Kevin Aguiar was hired as a guidance counselor, and he didn't even have the license from the state to be a guidance counselor. He had to have his hand held and walk through the program by Edward Costar, who then signed off on him becoming a guidance counselor. And now he's a vice principal. I mean, this is what you call political patronage. Do me a favor, I'll give you a job. And that's what's happening here in Fall River, more blatantly than we've ever seen before. And as I've very clearly said before, Flanagan may have been bad, okay? But at least when we were getting screwed, he told us he was screwing us, but he kissed us. So.
Well, remember one thing, and don't be fooled anymore. Let's look at the reality. When they talk about we have to get more revenue, that's a semantic ploy, because there's no such thing as revenue. This isn't a profit-making company. The revenue they're talking about is your pocketbook. They're picking your pocket. The city doesn't sell us anything. They just steal from us. And remember that.
That's true. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on Friday.